We want to make sure that we draw the line here at Kilmar Garcia, because it's not just about him. It's about the fact that in the Oval Office, Donald Trump brought up that he wants to do the same thing to quote unquote homegrowns being U.S. citizens, a complete violation of our Constitution. I don't want to wait till it gets to that point. The reason I'm here as a Congressman representing Orlando, Florida, is because I've received hundreds and hundreds of calls and emails and mail from my constituents. I represent a lot of immigrants. I represent a lot of people who see themselves represented in this situation. They're saying, Congressman, do what you can now, because it's him today and it can be one of us tomorrow.
I want to dig in on that point. You've made that point several times, but before we move forward, I have to stop down with what you just said. Donald Trump's made a statement about wanting to deport American citizens. Do you have that in front of you? I've not seen that statement. Can you please quote where that comes from, that he would like to deport American citizens?
He said it in the Oval Office. He said he wants to go for homegrowns next, people born and raised in the United States. Citizens.
Do you have anything? And then do you have anything besides your word on that? I have not seen that. So. Beyond your word, do you have the source of that? I would love to see that clip or that transcript of him saying he wants to deport American citizens.
There is a clip online. I encourage people to just Google Donald Trump homegrown, deporting homegrown criminals. It is something he said in the Oval Office.
Well, you understand how television works. We have these fancy earpieces. I like to hear very few instructions from my staff while you and I have a conversation, but we are in search of that clip as we speak. So as you and I have this conversation for the next several minutes, we'll be looking for that clip.
Yeah, Will Kaine, I'm pretty sure we do have something beyond just Maxwell Frost's own words. Pretty sure it was captured and then broadcast on national television because Donald Trump said these words in front of at least a dozen reporters inside the Oval Office.
Demanded the people wanted to change everything, and they wanted to. He demanded, they love you, they love what you do. You know, I'm not feel supportive. I want him to do, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. It's not big enough. No, yeah.
You've heard me talk before about how right-wing media is a hermetically sealed media ecosystem because they don't want their viewers to know the truth, which comes from the outside world. Apparently, it is so well sealed that even the Fox hosts themselves have no fucking clue what's going on. Although, if Will Kaine doesn't watch other networks, perhaps he should at least pay attention to his own, considering Fox News itself published the story titled, "Trump Open to Sending Violent American Criminals to El Salvador Prisons," which read, when asked by Fox's Rachel Campos Duffy if the prison could be used for our own violent criminals, Trump replied that it was possible, saying it could be implemented for what he referred to as homegrown offenders. But hey, other than news outlets and his own news outlet, how could we really expect Will Kaine of the news to be up on the news? Now, Will Kaine did ultimately find a clip, although not the one I referenced above, which is a testament to the fact that Trump has said this multiple times, and he played it on air before, of course, refusing to apologize.
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
And he goes on right after that to say, but we have to obey the law. It will always be to obey the law. After years of very fine people, among other hoaxes, I'm suspicious of any Democrat quoting President Trump in full context. And I make no apologies. None. On not being able to know or recall that specific clip because it doesn't reinforce my fever dream Handmaid's Tale vision of America, where Lily, who reads The Bulwark on the Upper West Side, is about to be deported right after Kilmar Garcia. President Donald Trump was clearly talking about obeying the law. I'm doubtful the law would allow him to deport homegrown criminals. But it's a far cry again from the Handmaid's Tale vision of the next after Brago Garcia is you.
Surprise, surprise. Fox host shows that he was wrong and then blames it on the Democrats. He says, I'm suspicious of any Democrat quoting President Trump. Right. It's the Democrats who lie, says the guy in a network that paid nearly $800 million for lying on Trump's behalf about the 2020 election. Please, tell us more about your network's virtuous, honest, accurate coverage, Will Kaine of Fox News. Also, it's amazing how Kaine continues to perpetuate this idea that clearly Donald Trump would always, first and foremost, obey the law. Right. Of course, how could we ever presume that he wouldn't? Other than the fact that he is quite literally right now refusing to obey a lawful ruling handed down 9-0 by the U.S. Supreme Court demanding Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release, other than the fact that he is a 34-time convicted felon himself, other than the fact that he was indicted in 3 other cases that didn't even have the chance to go to trial, other than the fact that he was held civilly liable for defamation multiple times over to the tune of nearly $100 million. But yes, other than all of that, he is basically an adult hall monitor. Can't get anything past Mr. Law and Order himself. Of course, if you're wondering why Fox News is so hell-bent on obfuscating the facts surrounding this story and just outright lying about it, it's because they have no leg to stand on. Again, they are actively defying a Supreme Court order because they have decided to usher in a constitutional crisis by outright ignoring the will of a co-equal branch of government. This isn't even about Garcia. It is about due process and being a nation of laws and upholding our democracy. These people crow about that stuff when they can virtue signal for the cameras, but the moment their supposedly dearly held principles are challenged, they fold faster than a bad hand in poker. It took all of 5 minutes before they went from being the Law and Order party to this party. Ignore the Supreme Court, arrest anyone who tries to enforce this, dissolve the Supreme Court entirely if they push, you can deport foreigners or you don't have a country anymore. There are no good choices now. That might seem out of the mainstream, but mark my words, the Trump administration is well on its way. Just because the Overton window is shifting slowly does not mean it's not shifting. Remember, the Trump administration took office just a few months ago amid promises that it was only focused on hardened, undocumented criminals. Now they're deporting legal residents who they themselves admitted in court were sent away in error. They're even detaining American citizens. And don't take my word for it, take that of Democratic lawmakers Maxwell Frost and Robert Garcia, whom I spoke with today.
Yeah, so we actually just had a situation like this happen in Florida, in North Florida. We had a person who is a citizen detained by local police for something completely unrelated. I think it was a minor traffic infraction. And then ICE issued what's called the detainer, which is essentially when the local police can hold someone. I believe it can be up to 24 or 48 hours for ICE to come pick them up. So they held this guy, and the family went to the court proceeding holding up the birth certificate, holding up the paperwork, saying, look, he's a citizen. He was born here. What's going on? And the judge said, because we have some new laws in Florida that are horrible. We have some of the worst immigration laws in the country. The judge said, because of the law, we have to wait for ICE to get here, for ICE to tell us what to do. So it's the federal government, but we also can't take our eyes off the states that are there. It's a race to the bottom, and who can impress Trump the most to make the worst, most authoritarian, inhumane laws that even if you're a citizen and you get pulled over for having a tail light out or whatever it is, that you can end up being held up to 24, 48 hours for ICE to come and get you. And we heard about a similar thing happen in Arizona. It's happening across the country. This is why we're here. We're not here to be heroes. We're not here for any of that. We're here because we need to keep talking about it, protesting about it. Members of Congress, we need to do everything we can with the power that we have within our institution. The courts need to keep going. We can't afford to throw any part of the response out. Everything at full force all the time right now, because if we wait till it really gets out of hand, when citizens are being sent to foreign countries, when a congressperson can be I'm not trying to scare people, but this is what's going on in my state right now and in certain states across the country. And that's why we have to finish it now. We have to rise up now and make sure that doesn't happen again. And that's why I said we're the second batch of members here. Van Hollen really led the charge on this. We're following his lead. There's going to be more people coming. We've been talking with a lot of our colleagues. There's more trips.
So if you're waiting for the part where it's sufficiently dangerous so you can finally sound the alarm, we're already there. These Fox hosts might try and delude you, but their insistences that you ignore your lying eyes and your lying ears only betray the fact that they know full well what they're doing. They're just trying to ensure that you don't. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, Signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.